Good morning, friends. Welcome to the live ICAI sessions of the foundation course. We're doing the exam on business correspondence and reporting. My name is Jyoti Singhal, and today we're going to do a very interesting topic which is going to cover a lot of things. It's called Introduction to the Basics of Writing. It's an interesting topic. You will be learning a lot. So I request all of you stay connected, attempt the examples, ask as many questions as possible, and last but not the least, keep practicing at your end also. So till the time everybody joins, I'm just waiting. We'll have a look at your good mornings and your comments, and then of course we'll start. So, okay. There are a lot of questions right from the beginning, before I even started. Good to see that. So why are we studying this chapter? Khushi. Khushi, well, this is a chapter which deals with a lot of writing tasks, okay? So you need to be very sure that you are aware of how to write a report, how to write an article, what is the difference between a report writing and a pressy writing, because this is something you will be expected to do throughout once you join office, once you start your own practice. So not that if you are a CA, you are not into a writing task. That's just not possible. Everybody is supposed to write at some or the other point of time, even in this course of your journey. So that's the reason why we're going to do this chapter. It's an interesting chapter. Glad that all of you have joined. Good morning, Utkar. Good morning, Shreya. Nice to see you all. Please remember, writing is something which is going to help you in many ways. We don't have to restrict ourselves to, just an article writing, which most of you must have done in school. There are many other kinds of writing also which you are requested to be aware of. So in these live sessions, we're going to talk about meetings, we're going to talk about note making, we're going to talk about report writing, and all this has been designed keeping in mind that you will be needing these, you will be required to know about these once you are in your office. Okay, so please listen carefully. It's an important part of your paper, and it's very important from the point of view that it's very scoring. If you do a correct way, if you do the correct format, if you include all your points, you're definitely going to get full marks. And this is something which comes only through practice. Okay, so good morning all. Good to see a lot of people have joined. So we'll just start the session soon. I'll share my screen and then you can start. Any doubts from the last session, you can put them also here in case we missed out on something. So this is what we're going to start with. Introduction to basics of writing. Basics of writing, maybe you think it's not a very important thing because it leads to a lot of back to school kind of a culture. That's not going to be true here. So you'll realize how different it is. Okay, so this is my first slide. If you all must have done this, wherein you do a lot of reading, you do a lot of writing, you do a lot of listening, and of course, you do a lot of speaking. All these are the four very important components of language, which actually make a language. So right now, our concern is going to be the English language. And that's the reason why I insist, please read a lot, express yourself by writing a lot. Take up something which is maybe current affairs, take up something which is very much in news these days, take up something which is a topic in discussion, maybe on environment, on politics, or maybe sports. That will help you know where do you stand when you write, and it will also help you know that whether you are writing as per the requirement or not. Okay. Prashant Kothari, you're able to send me your queries and you're not able to watch. I'm seeing you on YouTube. I think, let me just check. You can check with the link once again, because generally I think it's happening. Everybody is there connected with me. So I'm surprised, why is the link not opening for you? Maybe there's some error at your end. Can you just give yourself some time and quickly check? Is there no any class because 17th April class show in screen? Vinita, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat? We are very much live here. We are having a session here. So I don't actually get the query you're talking about. Please rewrite it if you don't mind because it's very difficult to understand like this. Okay, so I hope the others have connected. Weightage. Well, see, it's not about weightage. You will definitely get a question on this because most of the writing questions here, you might have to write an article. So most of these writing questions are 5 marks. Okay. So that's the reason why I'm telling you that please ensure you stay connected and you practice this chapter. This is a very easy chapter. It's a very scoring chapter. So don't leave it because there are not many technicalities involved here. You know, specifically if I compare it with a pressy writing or a note making, there are some certain formats which you have to follow. Even for that matter, if it's a formal letter or an email writing, there are certain formats which are required to follow. In this case, it comes out very easily. So I request you, please stay connected. Okay. Okay, I'll check at my end. Give me a second. If you think there is something wrong with this, just give me a. So I'll just check at the technical side. I'll check with people because you can see the video is not here. You cannot see the link. So maybe there's some technical error. Give me a few minutes. At least you can hear me because you can listen to me. Can you just put that in the chat box if you can listen to me, or you neither can listen nor can you see? So none of you can see my screen also. Okay, it's showing Saturday's back lecture. Okay. The link you say is not working. Okay, fine. I'll just, all of you can just log into YouTube and start seeing. In the meanwhile, I'll definitely check what's the problem at the technical end because since all of you are saying the same thing, I'm sure there's something wrong. Just a couple of seconds and then I'll get back with the issue. So you cannot see my screen, you cannot see me live, you cannot hear me, all those issues. Okay, what about the rest of you? Can you see me? Shreya, Moksha, Utkar, those of you who have joined. Of course, Suprada, I'll definitely tell you. Well, I can see your comments, so don't worry. I can see your comments. I'll answer your comments because most of you are saying the video is visible on YouTube, but probably the link is not working. That's what you're saying. So I'm just checking with the people in the office. Maybe there is some issue with the link. But at least in the meanwhile, if you can see me on YouTube, you can hear me. And of course, if my screen is visible, then I think it shouldn't be a problem. So it's true for everybody, I assume. Okay. So let me just check. Okay. So I've put it across the technical people. I hope something works out because you say the video is not visible on the link, it's visible on YouTube. That's what you're saying, right? Okay. Fine. So as long as it's visible on YouTube, the only thing right now we can do is you can start connecting with me on YouTube. Let's see. Meanwhile, the corrections happen, the technical issues will get sorted. And then, of course, you can see me on the link, on the ICAI link also. As of now, if it's working well on YouTube, if you can see my screen and if you can attempt the questions, I think let's get started. So I'll start. I'm just ensuring that everybody joins because most of you are complaining it's not visible on the link. Okay. So meanwhile, I'll start sharing my screen in case something correction happens. We can definitely stop for a minute and get back. Okay, so we are talking about the four aspects of reading, writing, learning, and speaking. That's a very important aspect of language because that's where you will learn how exactly to formulate questions, how exactly to formulate ideas, how exactly to bring about all those in terms of your writing. So if you're able to do that, then I'm sure you are a wonderful writer. You're a wonderful let's say you've been a very good student, enhancing your knowledge, enhancing your vocabulary and your writing speech. Okay. Uh, okay, is it visible now? Because Krishnaja just said you can start, so I assume it's visible now. Okay, I think now everything is taken care of. You can start listening to me carefully. I hope the link is working. Now I don't think so there's any problem. You don't need to use the link. You don't need to use YouTube. So finally, let's get started. I'm sorry, maybe some technical error in the site. Great. Thanks, Krishnaja. Thank you for saying that the problem is solved. The link is live. The link is working. All of you can reconnect with the link. I haven't started much, so I can just repeat what I said. We are talking about the four components of language. This is the basics which you need to learn because without this, it gets very difficult to move ahead, whether it's any form of writing. Okay. Why we say listening? Because sometimes it's expected that you listen to the ideas and then start formulating them in your mind and then finally produce something or at your level. So if you're unable to do that, then listening becomes a problem, understanding becomes a problem. Like right now, for example, I'm simply talking, okay? I might be sharing screen, I might be discussing stuff with you, but at your end, it's only the listening aspect which is playing the key role. So if you are a good listener, then I'm really sure you can reproduce much better stuff if you listen carefully. If you are a haphazard listener, if you are a very impatient listener, you are in a hurry to write your own work, then things go in the wrong direction. Okay, so this is the reason why I insist all these four components of language should be taken care of. Okay, moving ahead, the importance of writing. Now, every time people ask me, why do we need to write, especially CA students, why does communication help us in any way? Why do we need to read? Why do we need to learn how to make a note or how to use writing for meetings? Well, writing firstly helps a lot in communication. Now, communication can be of various forms. Okay, if I say communication is specifically talking, then I'm just absolutely incorrect because communication typically means it's used for various purposes. If you can see these words, it's used for informing. So if I want to tell somebody about some important news, I'm going to communicate, that's information. if I want to express my views, that I'm not happy with the way things around us are going on, I'm not happy with the way we are taking care of the environment, I'm not happy about certain other issues of the country, that's my expression. So I'm telling you my opinion. So expression writing is nothing but opinion writing. Next comes rebel. Rebel means when I'm going against the authorities. So I'm going to take a severe step. I'm going to go in a more aggressive, in a more violent way. A rebellion can be in the form of a protest, like if you remember the 1857 revolt, which is a kind of a rebellion against the British authorities, that we're not just going to listen to you. We'll do whatever we think is right. So that's a rebellion. And last but not the least, influence. So when I want to bring a change in the society, I want to say that, let's all do this, let's all leave the past and let's all start doing this. I'm trying to influence you by means of giving examples, by means of my speeches, by means of my seminars, by means of my writings. That is influence. So these are the four key words which form communication, and all these can be done by writing. Speaking probably would not have that much as an effect as much as writing does, because words are heavier when written than when spoken. Okay, so now I've given you a list of things like newspapers, books, research journals, etc. All these are examples of written texts. So if you're reading a school textbook, if you're reading a reference textbook, if you're reading a newspaper, or if you're reading a PhD thesis, all these are forms of writing. In this, you will realize every text has a different style of representation. If you would have attempted the questions, if you've seen your last year's paper, you would have read that in the reading comprehension section, we often have this question: where do you think the text has been taken from? In that case, you should be able to identify whether it's a school textbook. This is typically a school textbook. This is like, a PhD thesis. Newspapers, of course, what you read daily. Books can be reference books, books can be fiction, books can be non-fiction, anything. So here, this kind of variety of reading will help you answer that question in your reading comprehension. Where do you think the text has been taken from? Okay. Any doubts still here? Anything you want to ask me? Now that the link is working, I am visible, I am audible, the screen is visible. Could you understand these 2 points which I just now discussed? Why do I think writing plays a very important role in a CA's journey? That's a specific question all of you keep asking. Why should a CA person write? You will be asked to write several reports, take down meeting notes, take down records, whether it's an audit, whether it's something about income tax, whether it's something about a general GDP, whether it's something about a normal company's turnover. There are ways of recording it. So if I talk about official records, of course, this is going to happen. You might even have to do some personal records at your end. So that, of course, also needs a certain style of writing. So you can't write personal records in long essays. There is a template you need to follow, and the more aware you are at the beginning, the much better it becomes later in your stage of life. Okay, so importance of writing is here. It helps in content development. Now, sometimes if I ask you, please do a survey on the number of people who have not been paying tax in a certain area. So if you do a survey, you should know how to make a proper content for a survey. A survey is not written in terms of theory. A survey is more practical. It involves a lot of bar graphs. It involves a lot of other pictorial representations, maybe a pie chart, maybe a Venn diagram. So if you are unable to develop content in a very holistic way, I don't think so you will be able to perform better. That's the reason why writing helps. We'll discuss various ways of writing, various styles of writing. And last but not the least, I would expect you to write something here in class today. Fine. Now, it's also a source of living. You must have heard about, various authors, Ruskin Bond, Sudha Murthy, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, Mr. Khushwant Singh, Mrs. Taslima Nasreen, Arundhati Roy, Shobha Dey. These are very famous authors whom we've been reading. Of course, the foreign authors are also there. So they write as a source of livelihood. If I'm an author, I'm going to pen down several books in the aim that I'm going to get back money from it. So that's a source of living for me. That can be a reason for writing. Sometimes writings are used only for later references. This is mostly done for in relation to reference books. So when you're doing a research paper, when you're doing a thesis in a PhD, you just go to a library which is full of books, a completely book-oriented library where there are no fancy stuff. There you're going to refer to books, maybe for whatever research you are doing. So any kind of a further experiment or a discovery or an invention is not possible without referring to past data, without referring to old content. That's the reason why we have archives. If you see, there are newspapers which have archives. Archives are nothing but a collection of whatever has been there from the past. If you visit the website of these very important newspaper dailies, let's say Times of India, let's say the Hindu, let's say Hindustan Times, they all have archives, which means in case you want to refer to something which is maybe about 2017, December 25th, what happened that time in our country, what was the news, then you can refer to the archives. So the archives is nothing but a collection of those old newspapers or books which might be used for later references. And last of all, it gives a personal touch. This is something very close to me also. When you want to wish somebody, if you simply say happy birthday, it might not create that much of an effect as much as it will do when you make a card for that person. So that's the reason why we say writing always creates a personal touch. Okay, how many of you write? I would like to know how many of you write. You write a blog, you write an article, you write poetry, you write diaries. Is there anybody in the class who writes? Okay, Pooja, the first point is it basically relates to the reasons for writing. So we write to communicate, and communication can be in different forms. Communication can be for informing, communication can be to express my opinion, tell you my viewpoint. I want to take a stand on some issue. That's expression. Rebel is when I'm going to take a stronger, severe step to go against the authorities, to go against the norms, not to accept the societal doings. That's rebellion. And last of all, influence, when I think I'm just good at something and I want the society to take care of that. It might be a social cause, it might be a political cause, it might be an economic cause. But when I want to ensure that people listen to me and you get influenced by me, you start following what I say. That's the reason why people write. Okay, Pooja? Okay, so I think thanks, Prashant. Thank you so much, Urvashi. You're writing very good. You write your diary. That's great, Ankit. So you write a daily diary. What is this question? Comprehension asks which book this paragraph is taken. Amit, well, there is no one book which you can refer to for comprehension practices. You need to practice almost everything. That's the reason why I kept repeating, please study a lot, please read a lot. Okay. Ishika, what do you write? Okay, Prashant says J.K. Rowling, very good. So are you a complete Potterhead? Are you reading only Harry Potter or is there is more beyond J.K. Rowling? Okay, Kalpita says diary. Most of you are like diary writers. Is that like a one day of venting out what happened to you and how your day was spent? Okay, thanks Jayashri and Neha, and thanks Moksha that now everything is visible. What is source of livelihood? Shreya, when somebody writes for the sake of earning money, like the famous authors which I mentioned, that is source of livelihood, the source of living. So when I'm writing to earn money and that's the money, that's the only income I have, only source of income, that's when I say writing might be done as a source of livelihood. Okay, great. So I write diaries to make note of important activities. Okay, Suprada, that's interesting. See, sometimes what we don't realize is we're just writing, maybe it's a forceful write. Okay, a forceful writing is nothing but when I'm made to write, but I don't feel like writing. then the results are definitely going to be different. But if you feel like writing, the emotions with which you write, the words which come out of your pen are going to be much more spectacular and effective as compared to when you're forced to write. Now, I always tell all my students that please write when you are in a good mood, please write when you want to write from your own, and please write with a pen or a pencil. Typing on screen does not give you that feel of writing, but when you use a pen or a pencil, you will really feel the difference because words get registered, emotions come out, it looks more effective, it looks more influencing. That's why I say, please write. Writing means writing. Writing is not synonymous to typing at all. Okay, fine. Let's move on. So, all of you said you're writing diaries, etc. Now, how do I start writing? For example, today I tell you, okay, students, please start writing something. Now, you wonder why is ma'am saying start writing something? What do we exactly write? So, the first and the very important, the basic steps behind writing are these. The first is you need to select a topic. Okay, selecting a topic means you need to know what you're going to write. So the first thing you're going to do is think about what you're going to write. So this is a topic. A topic can be a genre, let's say. These are the few things which you can do to select a topic. So you can select a topic, which means I'm going to write on environment, I'm going to write on humanity, I'm going to write on technology, I'm going to write on finance, I'm going to write on the medical condition in the country today. So there are various things which you can think about you're going to write on. That is selection of a topic. Okay, got it? Next comes the stage where you're going to think about the genre. So are you going to write a fiction? Are you going to write persuasive? Are you going to write a narrative? Are you going to write something which is just a blog? That is the genre. Style of writing. Style of writing typically includes, am I writing for myself? Like, am I writing for my own satisfaction? Am I writing it as a report to be published in a newspaper or maybe published in a journal? What is the length of my writing? Am I just writing one paragraph? Am I going to attempt a 5-page long report? All that needs a selection. Sometimes we say these points, let's say, sometimes I say these aspects of style and length, okay? These aspects do not need a lot of stuff. Why? Because what happens is sometimes while writing, we realize, okay, I think I need to increase my length. Sometimes I realize, okay, I think while writing, I'm going to decide whether it's going to be a blog or a diary. That might often happen, but it's better if you know all these things beforehand. It's definitely going to be helpful. You will realize that how easy writing becomes if all the things are coming step by step. Okay, that's the reason why we call this page as a basic step towards writing. Fine. Okay, I'll just have a look at the questions. Let me see if there's any doubt still here. Okay, I'll discuss genre, don't worry. Potter fan, okay. Wonderful. Potter fan. Okay, people have started discussing Gryffindors here. I'm writing those things which I want to try to forget. Okay, maybe that's helpful. Personal, okay, personal notes, poems and quotations, very good. Okay, so we have Ishika who writes a lot of poetry, wonderful. So I have like brilliant people in the class who are doing a lot of writing, various stuff, styles and stuff of writing, which is good. So I think it's always decent to start writing at an early stage so that you develop that habit and you're not forced to write at any point of time. Okay. Now, some people have been asking me the meaning of genre, which is Genre. I think we've definitely discussed that many times, but maybe it's just not clear. So when I say G-E-N-R-E, this is the word which I want to say, genre. Genre basically means a category, a kind, a sort. That's what genre means. So it can be classic. It can be, suppose I'm talking about books, specifically books. So it can be classics, it can be fiction, it can be an autobiography, it can be a science fiction, it can be a horror story, it can be a mystery, it can be an adventure. So the style of writing or the kind of writing that book falls into, the category means genre. And if I say it is about the spelling, then I'll tell you how to spell it. So this is the spelling. This is the spelling. This is the pronunciation. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the pronunciation. So it's like yawner. It's not G-E-N-R-E as in Jenner, but it's yawner. That's the way you pronounce it. Okay. So fine. Now it's very important to realize that when people write, they don't think, they just start writing. That's something I always say, please don't. When you're writing, you always need to give yourself time to think and brainstorm. Suppose I ask you to write something right now. So I won't say, okay, just start writing, take up a pen, take up a paper and start writing. No. I want you to select your topic. I want you to think sometimes, let's say, am I going to write on politics? Okay, so let me just put all the ideas that are coming to my mind on paper. Use a rough column, express yourself in short, in bullet points. Think about what is going on in your mind, put it on paper. Then comes this third step of organizing. Let me tell you the first step of the basic steps, the selection and the brainstorming. These two play the most important role in writing. Most important. Even if you think I'm lying, it's not the case. So these two are the most important aspects, because if there is no selection, there is no thinking, writing does not happen. So very importantly, have some ideas in your mind before you actually start to pen them down. You will realize when the ideas are there in your mind, words come out better. Whereas if the ideas are haphazard, scattered, disorganized, whatever is produced is not in good shape. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of comments on what people have been writing. I'm glad you all write. I've explained the meaning of yawner. I hope that's clear. Okay, Pooja and Sandeep, you were asking me about yawner. Please remember, these are things which should be now clear to you. So as and when you are getting into the journey of CA deeper and wider, please remember these words. Sometime down the line, you will realize that yes, once upon a time on 19th April in a morning class, I did this word, and you feel good when you see the word and you know the meaning. Fine. Okay, so that's about it. Not many people have a question right now. I'm moving on to the third step, which is organizing. When I want you to organize, I typically say everything should be stepwise, which means I need to know that this is the way I'm going to introduce my topic. That's the first. This is the way I'm going to move forward by talking about the good first and then the bad, or maybe vice versa, or maybe I'll give you general perception first, then I'll come down to specific, or vice versa. There are different styles of organizing your content, which is also done as form of a rough work. It's not a fair work. Okay, it's not something which everybody needs to know what is the organization you have done. That's not the case. This is all done at your end, at your personal end. Fine. Okay, people are saying you can start from a small topic, of course, sure, there's no problem at all. In fact, I always suggest start from something which is very basic. Let's say start about writing on how your day was spent yesterday. What was last week like? Why was last week different from last to last week? What happened last year which made you realize the importance of life? Take up very small, tiny topics where you think there is a lot of expression going to happen. Then move on to the larger ones, the difficult ones. Okay. Okay, Sonak, that's okay. I'm sure there are issues. Uh, okay, thanks, Pooja. Jasmine, I don't write, but I want to. Well, that's an interesting statement. Of course, you should write. And may I ask you, why don't you write? Because I think most of us don't write because it's not a compulsory task, but I can tell you in written, if you start writing, you will realize how much fun it is. You feel very light, you feel very comfortable, you feel the command over language, you feel the command over your pen. And that's the kind of strength you need once you become a CA. You're not supposed to only focus yourself towards one subject. There are many different things which are required out of a CA, which he or she should know. And if you do this text properly, if you do this writing part properly, there is no stopping. Okay. Finally, so let's move on. Organizing is clear. So you're just arranging your thoughts and your ideas in a certain way such that they appear logical and they appear very, very structured. Okay, that's something which I always say. So organization always leads to logic. Organization always leads to a good structure. So logic and structure is what I always expect in any writing. If there is no structure, it simply seems a collection of words which are making no sense. And that's something which nobody will like to read. Then it looks like a chaos of words. It looks like as if it's a fish market, words have just been thrown on the page. Sorry. So that should never be the case. Fine. Okay, let's come to the next thing, which is writing. Now, finally, comes the most important task. So I'm giving it like 5 ticks, which is the final writing. When you write, your external factors should be favorable. You should not be getting by the fan, you should not be getting by the light, you should not be getting by the heat around you. So take up a comfortable space, whatever you think it is, and start writing. Now, writing always needs a clear mind, a focused mind, and very importantly, a mind and a heart that wants to write. Like Jasmine just now said, she wants to write, but she doesn't write. So that want can be changed to a wish only when you enjoy writing. If it's forceful writing, don't expect results. And don't even expect results in the first go. Because whenever you write, you yourself might not write your writing initially. Gradually, you realize that yes, I'm improving in the language, improving in syntax, I'm improving in probably the choice of my vocabulary, I'm improving the kind of punctuations I'm using. That's how you will see the improvement. Fine. So this is of course done with the writing, which is the final step. Then we move on to revising. Now, what does revising mean? This means once you are done with the writing, you think your rough draft is ready, you think you've written about 20 pages, which is more than enough for whatever topic you have taken. Then you sit back and revise the whole set right from page 1 till the last page. Revising doesn't mean just turning pages and saying, okay, this is fine, this is fine. No. Revising means checking each word, checking each line, whether it's making sense, because a revision always ensures better clarity, and a revision always ensures a check on spelling mistakes, a check on grammar mistakes, a check on ideas. That's why revision is very, very important. Uh, what is the question? So, look, we'll do emails in another session. So I request you to wait for that. We have a session on email writing and letter writing. So maybe we can discuss how many paragraphs, how many words that time. Okay. Fine. Next is revising, which of course we've discussed. The last is editing in this case. Editing is you don't edit, somebody else would edit. So suppose I've written an article and I've written a travelogue on my visit to Missouri, on my visit to some hill station in the country, on my visit to Ooty maybe. So when I'm writing this stuff, I think it's perfect. Fine. I think I've done a very good job. I've expressed myself well. I've used good sentences. I've been able to capture the attention of the audience. But yet, I always want a second opinion. Like we always take a second opinion whenever there is a doctor's visit. God forbid, there should never be a doctor's visit in your life. But just in case there is a need, you always think, okay, let's have a second opinion. That's what editing does. Editing is always about a second opinion, because sometimes when we write, we don't realize that we write it assuming that we've written everything very well. But finally, when you go to somebody else and ask for a second opinion, which is much more unbiased, which is much more practical, which is much more from somebody else's point of view. That's when you realize what is your mistake and what can be corrected. And there is no harm in admitting that, that person has been good enough to give me a good opinion. He or she has changed certain lines or requested you to change certain lines. He or she has suggested that this paragraph should be coming before the next one. So the arrangement of content, the choice of words, all this comes into editing. And last of all, when everything is good to go, your content gets printed. So you become the author, you become another J.K. Rowling, you become another Sudha Murthy, you become another Chetan Bhagat, you will become another author whose books or essays or journals or magazines are out on the stalls for reading. Okay? Clear till here, I've done all the very basics, all the important stuff which you need to do before writing. This is not something which you have to mug up. This is something which you have to inculcate as a habit, especially when you want to attempt writing. Fine? Okay. So any doubts still here? Or should you start writing from? Well, you should always start writing from something which is very, very basic. Let's say you start writing on the increase of the depletion of ozone layer, the increase in global warming, anything which is very basic because you've been reading a lot about it. How to take care of water pollution, how to take care of air pollution. Write something about that in terms of an expression. Okay, you don't have to collect facts. Write as if what is your opinion. The rising COVID-19 cases, about the second wave, should India go under a lockdown? Or maybe you can write about, let's say, should there be a vending machine in schools? Should there be uniform in schools? Would every child need to visit? Should every child stay in a hostel during his or her learning period? Take up something which is more opinion based, which is more expression based, so that you vent out all what you want to. You give it your best, you express it and come out of your ideas very clearly because there is no binding on that kind of a write. So I always suggest when you think, what should I start writing? Start writing on these topics. Okay? I hope I've made myself clear. Jasmine, I just told you. If we go from editing from some other person, he may have a different opinion. Well, Jay, it's not about different opinion. I remember your name in the last classes also. Okay, well, this is not about he or she having a different opinion. This is about somebody giving a much more neutral opinion. So you don't go to somebody who's your enemy and he or she doesn't want your book to be published. That never happens. You go to professional editors. You go to people who know the style of editing and what exactly to look for in the editing. That's what a good editor is. Okay, so don't worry even if the viewpoints don't match. They will always keep your viewpoints, but they check the text from the technical aspect. Fine. Okay, when I see writing pages, they use words that have a simple meanings, but the words look very difficult. Jasmine, it's all about practice. It's all about being aware of those words. The more you are familiar with words usage, the more you're familiar with idioms and phrases and phrasal verbs, the more comfortable you will feel when you start reading all this and when you start writing. So that's the only reason why I'm insisting all of you should read newspapers. You should develop that habit because when you read a newspaper, all that is part and parcel of your life. So you're reading some new word every day, you're seeing the usage. Whenever you sit down to write, you will definitely be using those very words, and then you realize how your vocabulary has become different after you started reading. Fine. Pooja, I'm not sure about that. I mean, let's just concentrate on the class rather than when the exams will happen and whether there's going to be a postponement. You'll definitely be getting all those information sources somewhere in your email and on the website. So don't bother about that at all. You just concentrate on studying at the point of time and expecting that all goes well and you have your exams as per schedule. Okay, Jay, thank you so much. Prashant Kunal, please elaborate selection once again. Whole topic, genre, style, length. Okay, thanks, Shreya. Everything is clear. So Prashant Kunal, I was talking about genres, which means a certain kind or a sort or a category. So when you select a topic, you should be able to decide what genre am I writing. Am I writing something which is more violent? Am I writing about history? Am I writing about a fact-based story, a factual story? Am I writing a narrative? Or am I writing a fiction which includes a lot of science fiction, which includes a lot of horror or a mystery or an adventure story? That's how you decide on the genre of your topic. Okay. Shruti, I think we've already discussed that what kind of books. You should read books which are more daily life kinds. I gave you a suggested reading list in the last class when we were doing the reading comprehension sessions. Also, if it's only about vocabulary, then you can pick up a book by Norman Louis. Uh, that's a very good book, Word Power Made Easy. It's a little heavy, but I think if your goal is to increase your vocabulary, then you should definitely refer to that book. Okay. Fine, let's move on. I think I've attempted, I've answered all questions. So next is this. Very important, how do you organize? Now, if you would have seen writers, some people say that he's a writer. For example, say Ruskin Bond, who stays in Missouri, is a writer. Now, he just doesn't take up a pen and a paper and starts writing whatever comes to his mind. There is always a way he does that, or there's always a way the others do it. So how do they do it? You have to put your ideas in a list form or in a half radial form. Okay, so let's say I've given you some topics. Let's say I've given you English and you want to write poetry. So you're going to write poetry about country, the situation the country is facing right now. You might write poetry which is appreciating nature. You might write poetry about the sun. You might write poetry on a girl. You might write poetry about how beautiful life is. So there are various aspects. Hence, you should know your subject. You're going to write on English. You're going to write a poetry, which is the genre. You're going to write on sociology, which means you're going to discuss the society. So when you talk about the society, you definitely need to talk to people in the society. So all those aspects should be listed down. I'm going to talk to 5 people today. I'm going to talk to people from different professions. I'm going to ask them their views on A, B, C, D. That's the way your list gets organized. And then you start working on it, you start elaborating. Okay. So this is a very basic aspect of organizing. These are the very common, styles of organizing content. And whenever you write, I would suggest you also do this. This is very good for article writing. This is very good for essay writing also. Well, Vani, I don't think so. Because what happens is, if you write some part of it today and some part of it tomorrow, one, the flow gets disrupted. Two, you tend to forget the reason why you started writing. So if you want to remain on the track, I suggest you write that very moment. You finish your writing to an extent that even if you have to take it forward tomorrow or day after or 5 weeks hence, you are able to do it without disrupting the flow. If that's the case, then it's okay if you write half today, half tomorrow. Okay, everything clear till here? Any doubt? So I was asking, yes, kind of, Prashant Kothari. Yes, that's kind of what you say, the cause and effect list. Okay. Okay, so I've answered most of your questions. I don't think so I've left anybody. I'm sorry if I left anybody, but I hope it's clear on the screen. It's clear about writing. So I assume and I presume rather all of you are going to start writing right from today. And whenever I meet you next, you're going to show me what you've written. Maybe we have a session tomorrow also for Pressy. The afternoon session is something which we're doing on Pressy writing, which is another 5-mark question in your exam. So I assume when you finish writing the Pressy, you will have a better command, a better confidence when you write. So next class when I meet you, I would like to see all what you have written. Fine? Okay. The length of the topic, the length of the writing is very, very subjective. It depends on what is the reason you're writing for. Prashant, no. You can't make these designs in article writing. You can make these designs for your own understanding, your own rough work, your own preparation. So all this is part of preparation. All this is not part of the real article. Okay. Nobody else would be seeing all these designs which I'm showing you here. Okay. So now we are discussing styles of writing. We'll discuss this slowly and then I'll take you to some kind of examples. You can see there's a descriptive text, there's an expository text, there's a narrative text. I'll show you all examples. Right now, gradually and slowly, we'll discuss styles of writing. Now, expository, as the word means, it means to explain. Explanation is very, very detailed, but it is different from descriptive. So when I'm explaining something, I'm basically telling you something which you don't know. That's a very important aspect of an expository text. So the newspapers are explaining an incident which happened somewhere in a village because we don't know. So it also involves a lot of information. Similarly, if you buy a washing machine and you don't know how to run the washing machine, so you're going to read an instruction manual, which is part of the expository text because it goes stepwise. It tells you, okay, let's say press this button and then move on to the next button and then do a certain process. So whenever there is an instruction manual, it comes under the expository style of writing. And of course, something like a research paper. Research is nothing but there has been some search on it, but you have done a research. So a re is a prefix here which you're using. If you can see, this is re plus search. Re is a prefix. The main word is search. So whenever we add the word re before a word, it means doing it again, doing the second part of the word again, like represent, redo, rewrite, research, rethink. The second is a verb, and I'm simply adding a prefix re, which means I need to do that second part again. That is research. So a research paper is typically a paper which is talking about some information which has already been found out, but you're going to do some more elaborate study on it. So that is an explanatory kind of a style. That's the first aspect, expository. So if you read a newspaper which is explaining something or informing you about something, that comes under the expository text. Now, why you should know all this is because you might be asked to write a descriptive text, you might be asked to write a persuasive form of writing. That's the reason why I'm saying you should be aware of the style. Okay. Some of you have said Sonam, what is the error? Sorry, what is the doubt you have about organization? If you can be a little more specific, it's going to help me answer your question. Amrit, that is just British English and American English. There's no difference in that, so don't worry. Comparison and contrast. Okay, I'll explain that, Pooja. Intro, content, conclusion, and time they must try to complete the article. Okay, Sonam, yes. Well, organization is nothing but something which you're doing for your personal understanding. So you're just trying to put things in the right category, in the right boxes, so that you can refer to those boxes and start your final writing. That's what organization means. Okay, that's great, Jay. You've been writing from the last class and then you enjoyed writing. I'm so glad to hear students commenting from what we did last year and he or she is still continuing to write. Well done, Jay. Thank you so much. Saundarya, you might be asked to write something. That's what I'm saying repeatedly. This chapter is more about styles of writing. So you might be asked to do a travelogue. You might be asked to write some kind of a article, maybe an essay. So this is what is expected out of this chapter. Okay. Okay, so I think I've answered most of the questions. Fine. Let's move on to the second style, the persuasive style. The persuasive style is very often referred to as the debate style. Okay. The debate style, because it might require a lot of counter arguments. It might require a lot of arguments, first of all, and then I must say counter arguments. It might require a lot of questioning. And that's the reason why we call it persuasive, because it involves persuasion. You're going to force the reader, or you're going to force the audience to listen to you and agree with you. That's why it's called a persuasive style. Now, book reviews are very persuasive. Why? Can anybody tell me, why do you think book reviews are persuasive? What makes a book review? I read a book, let's say by uh, a very famous. Suppose I read a book by Stephen Hawking. Suppose I read a book by Sidney Sheldon. Suppose I read a book by Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Suppose I read a book by J.K. Rowling. And then I write a book review. So, why do you think the book review is going to act as a persuasive style of writing? Anybody wants to answer that? I'm waiting for your answers. How does a book review become a persuasive style of writing? Think about it, think about it, try and have an answer for everything. This is one reason why I keep asking you questions, so that you are also able to express. It's not just me who should do the talking, even you should do the talking, even you should tell me your viewpoint, your standpoint, your opinion. Okay, it's kind of critic. Okay, very good. Okay, Sudesh. Okay, Prashant, thank you so much. So that's kind of correct, because when you read a book review, you make a certain mindset. Okay, since this person is saying it's a good book to read, it has a climax, it has an anti-climax, it's going to help us know more about a certain topic, then you develop the same story in your mind and you are forced to read based on that book review. So sometimes we say book reviews are misleading, because that's one person's point of view. But mostly, whoever is a book reader gives a very neutral point of view. They don't be biased because I don't like the author. I'm never going to read a book by him, and I'm never going to review a book by him. That should not be the case. So, if you're reviewing a book, you are actually allowing a large population to read the book or probably leave the book. Hence, book reviews become a persuasive style of writing. Okay. Um, you don't have to identify. Don't worry, Niharika. It's just about knowing that this is the style of writing I'm going to attempt. So when I'm narrating, it's always the first person I. When I'm instructing, it's an expository style, because I have to go stepwise. Press the button A, 2, press the button B, 3, wait for a beep, 4, wait for the screen to show start, 5, wait for a green light blinking on the right side of the panel. These are instructions. Okay, so instructions are a means of explaining. This is how you will be able to identify the different styles of writing. Okay, the reviews can be argumentative, of course, Krishnaja. I don't deny that. But when somebody writes a book review, you are following that person because he has been into that profession since many ages. So it's not that I suddenly start writing a book review and people will believe me. No. There are book reviewers who have been in the industry, and they know their jobs in and out. That's why I'm going to believe them. So they can't be partial towards any author. Okay. Okay, Sumeta, so what you're saying, the viewer's view about the content, it might be different. Reviews enable us to choose the book. So most of you have understood that reviews will allow us to choose a book, or maybe by reading a book, you can decide whether this is my kind of a story, whether this is my kind of a genre or not. I just now told that, Niharika, how to identify. Sanket, I didn't get your question. People to people advertisement which rouse out of qualities expressed by the author, which would rather result in positive brainwashing. Well, maybe it's about advertisements, then yes, because you have a lot of misleading advertisements on screen also. Some some products claim to be 100%. Some products claim to be 99.9% safe in killing bacteria and germs. So, of course, when it comes to advertisements, they can be a little controversial. Yes, Prashant, that's very true. Book reviews become a style of persuasive writing because they narrate the matters of the book which have been written, and they also tell you from one person's point of view. You are, of course, free to differ. In fact, I would suggest all of you, you must have read some book in the recent past, maybe last year or something. Please try to write a book review, write from a very neutral perspective, write from a very third person perspective. Then you will realize, I think, reviewing a book is more difficult than writing a book. Okay, leave alone a book. Even if I say review an article, a review or report, you will fall short of words and you will fall short of grades because you don't know how to check it. So when you write on somebody else's writing, it's even more tough. It's tougher than writing your own style. Okay, so I've discussed the persuasive style, I've discussed the expository style. These are standard English words which you should be aware of. Don't worry, why should a CA do them, or why should an MBA do them, or why should a doctor know them? When you get into the habit of writing and reading, when you enter into the industry, all this will be expected out of you. So don't give me a descriptive about all that which happened yesterday. Just give me an expository text. So in office, your boss might simply say, okay, can you give me a narrative about what exactly happened when you went to the audit and then how exactly did you do it? Or somebody senior in office might say, can you give me a persuasive text for this? So you should at least be aware of the words because that time you can't sit and think, okay, what was persuasive? I think I did it one of my live YouTube sessions where I don't remember. Don't make a fool out of yourself. Okay, so I've discussed the first two styles right now. The next two I'll discuss after a break. Let's take a 5 minute short break, and once I resume, you can definitely ask me as many more questions and we can discuss flyers, book reviews, travelogues, etc. Can somebody please start telling what is a flyer? Shreya wants to ask. I'm sure many of us must have seen flyers and pamphlets, which were also called leaflets in some time. So we'll discuss that. We'll discuss descriptive, we'll discuss narrative, we'll discuss all the remaining styles of writing, but after a break. So it's a small 5 minute break. We'll come back soon and be ready for as many doubts as possible. And please read and write and discuss. Thank you so much. We'll be right back. Piyasha was just saying, give me a break, and we are already back from a break. So let's start. Now, when I say discussing about, let's say, writing and speech writing, flyer writing, advertisement writing, I've got a lot of answers. So let's just discuss them and share my screen. Just give me a second. Is the screen visible, all of you? Can I just get a yes from you in case the screen is visible? Okay. So some of you have already started telling me what's a flyer. Uh, a flyer is a single unfolded printed sheet that is used to draw attention. Prashant Purari, thank you so much. That looks like typically taken from the definition style of some text. That's how you define a flyer, as in it's like a Google definition or something. So anything which is like an unfolded printed paper, like a leaflet or a pamphlet, which you circulate to make people aware of an event like an inauguration or an opening or a festival or maybe some new classes, they are called flyers. Okay, I'll show you some examples of a flyer soon once I move on with the slides. I'll definitely do that. So next is descriptive writing. Sorry, before that, let me just tell you, how does speech come into this writing? I think somebody asked me. Let me see. Okay, Shreya. Speech is persuasive because when you are standing on a dais giving a speech to somebody, you are definitely addressing an audience. Now, when you address an audience, you want to actually change their mindset. You want to make sure that they follow what you say. So you are in a way trying to influence them. You are in a way trying to tell that, this is what I'm here to do. So any kind of a speech, whether it's a speech by a freedom fighter or a speech by a politician or a speech by any NGO person, it's always for the sake of persuasion. Okay? Yes, Sumedha. If somebody asks you to write a persuasive report, it obviously means that they want you to write your style, your opinion. So it has to be strong. It needs to require a lot of conviction. It needs to be very, very straightforward. The reason why I'm telling you all this is because all these styles of writing require different word usage, difference in thoughts. So when you're doing a persuasive text, you can be very, very, and very strong in your words, in your choice of words. But when you're doing a descriptive text, you might be very simple, very basic, because you're describing something to somebody who doesn't know about that. So a description will be much more easier to understand than a persuasive text. Okay? So let's move on to the descriptive part now. Description is something like a traveler. Suppose I say I went to a new hill station. I went to Ooty last week, for example, and I want to describe my visit. That's when I'm going to use a descriptive style of writing so that whoever visits Ooty soon, based on my travel writing, has a fairly enough idea about what OT is, how to start, how to board a train, how to board a flight, where to stay, recommended food, recommended hotels, recommended points of visit, recommended tourist spots. So that's complete description, and it involves a lot of details. It involves a lot of writing. So the easiest is descriptive, but the longest is also descriptive. Okay, you get my point, all of you? Why am I saying descriptive is the easiest and why am I saying descriptive is the longest? Okay, last of all is narrative writing. Narrative is always very, very personal, like a story, where the author is narrating something. The author is telling that, so he went there, I went, so he went there, then she entered, then they came. So he's narrating a story which has happened, but he's the omniscient author. He knows about all that from the beginning. That's the reason why he is the author. Memoirs is like collection. Can anybody tell me what is a memoir? Memoir. Can anybody please try that? What is a memoir? Yes, very good. I'm getting some answers. Okay, can anybody tell me what's a biography and an autobiography? So memoir can be easily connected to that maybe. So if I say a biography, it's typically a writing on somebody's life. So I'm going to write a biography on, let's say, Nelson Mandela. But if Nelson Mandela himself would have been writing it, it's called an autobiography. A memoir typically is something which is a biography or any historical account, something which happened in the past. Let's say um, the Jallianwala Bagh incident. So the Jallianwala Bagh incident happened in 1990, 13th April. In fact, we just passed that date 6 days back. So in that case, if I'm going to write about that incident from the past, a historical background related incident, from whatever knowledge I have, it's called a memoir. Okay, so these are very creative styles of writing because you don't need to worry about what is wrong, what is right. This is more about you being creative, you being innovative in your style, you being very honest to what you feel. So it's fun writing all this stuff. It's a lot of fun. That's the reason why I keep saying, please attempt writing, please start writing. Okay. Travelogue, I just now explained travelogue, guys. I hope I'm audible because most of your questions are those which I've already explained. Vishaka, I just now explained what is a travelogue. Commentaries on an already written poem. That can be a paraphrase, Prashant. Paraphrase is nothing but explaining the poem. It can be notes also. It can be reference material also. So all that can come under another style, which is reference material, which is only on the basis of what has been written. You are just trying to explain it in better words. Okay. Okay, Shreya and Ankit, yes, biography, you've answered correct. Old memories, Ankit, that's what I said about memoirs. You've spoken about somebody's life or some incident. That is what is a memoir. Fine. Okay, great. Good to see. Uh, Autobiography, yes, Sonam, autobiography means the life history of a person written by himself. That's the key behind it, written by himself. Well, it's not, Prashant. You don't have to always say that anything which is long is only poetry, is only descriptive writing. Poetry is descriptive writing because the author might just be explaining something about a place. Suppose I visit Kashmir and I fall in awe, I'm like completely awestruck and dumbstruck by the beauty of Kashmir. So I just sit down to pen down poetry on its beauty. So that's complete description, but the style is more verse. Okay, it's like not prose, but it's verse. The verse style, VERSE. So there are two styles when we write prose and verse. When it's typically simple writing like an essay or an article, or it is verse where you have a poetic style, you have a rhyme scheme, you have figures of speech, your choice of words are different in a poem. So that's the reason why poetry comes under the descriptive style. Okay. Okay, Sudesh, thanks for that. I really like that comment. I'm not reading it out though. Okay, so this is an example of a descriptive text. I want you to go through it carefully. No need to hurry. Read the descriptive text. Read both the descriptive text. There are examples, two examples I've shared on the screen. Tell me what is the first one about and tell me what is the second one about. Okay, I'll remain mute for some time. You read the text and tell me what did you understand. Simple text, they're not very technical. It's just basic reading skills which I'm testing, and tell me what are the first and the second about. Okay, I'm waiting for your answers. Go through it and I'll just be quiet for some time. Prashant, any biography written, first of all, it comes under the non-fiction category. And since it's memoirs, I just now told you, if you can see, um, sorry, it comes under narrative style because you're going to narrate somebody's story. So any biography might come under the narrative style. Done? Okay, so now can I start asking you what is the first text about? It's a descriptive style, but what is it about? It's about the holy festival that of course you can read by just the first line. Okay. First is about Holi and how we celebrate the festival. Very good, Kushi. Very good, Nafisha. Thank you so much. Great, Pooja. You've answered correct. Sonak first tells us about Holi and second tells you about a person incarcerated in an old jail made out of stone walls. Okay, wonderful. Anybody else wants to attempt something? Okay. Khushi, I think you need to be more specific, like when you say the second is about a place, but what about a place? What exactly is being described? That's what I'm looking for. So when I'm asking you to write the summary, that's what you have to say, that it's about a place where maybe a person is trapped in. Maybe it's a very sad setup because you can see words like a gloomy entrance to a black tunnel. That's kind of imagery. Imagery always lets you envision in your mind what is the kind of structure being described, what is the place being described. So the second is much more a sad text, whereas the first one is a very happy text because it's talking about colors and brightness and vibrance and spring, etc. It's about the victory of good over evil. So the first is more positive connotation, the second is more negative connotation. The first is more happy and bright, the second is more sad and dull. That's how I'm trying to differentiate, because if you see the choice of words, every line has a different word which relates to the same mood as being discussed. That's what I want you to find out here. Okay, so just go through these. I have underlined some words: barbarous, depressing, forbidding. I hope you know the meaning of these three. And solitary and dismal. If you can understand the meaning of these five words and relate it to a certain context, that these are the words which are helping us understand that this is a sad passage, this is a passage about some dull setup, then I think you have understood reading very well. Okay. So thank you so much, all of you who have answered the question. The first and the second. First is very obviously holy, and the second is describing the place and the architecture, and it's a very sad state of affairs. Okay. Now, if you see the description, see, it's a very beautiful description. It says, on either side, a dripping wet wall of jagged stone. Jagged stone is stone which has a lot of rough and sharp surface. The edges and the surface are very sharp and rough. That's called a jagged stone. Excluding all but a strip of sky. So the view was only a strip of sky, as if, a very small part of the sky was visible, not the whole sky. So you don't have a very clear sky ceiling. It's not like a rooftop with an open sky view. This is just that a strip of sky is visible. Okay. And then they describe the long corridor and what's there at one end, and there's a black tunnel. The architecture is very massive. Probably things are very huge. Things are quite large. But there was a barbarous, depressing, and forbidding air. Barbarous is kind of cruel. Barbarous is kind of brutal. Depressing is definitely sad. Depressing is certainly dejected. Forbidding is something which is unpleasant and unwelcome. Okay, am I clear? So you have understood the meaning of this. Abridged means, oh my God, Prashant, you would manage to read abridged also. I'm so glad that you're reading every word on the slide. Abridged means it's a little shortened version of one of the texts of Charles Dickens. Okay, that's what abridged means. Okay, yes, Sudesh, you are right in answering what is barbarous. Of course, Shreya, very true. The second one is giving you negative vibes. That's what I was trying to say. Jagged, I just now explained. Jasmine, anything, any wall. Here it's in the context of a stone wall, which is very rough and it has uneven and sharp surfaces and edges. That's called jagged. Okay, so this is how a descriptive text is. Thank you so much for answering all the questions. Now I'll take you to the next thing. Let me just clear our drawings. Okay, now we come to the expository text. Yes, very true, Shreya. Dismal is depressed, solitary is lonely. Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for answering those questions. Very good. I'm so glad everybody is with me. I assume everybody is with me on this, on the same page, and you are understanding the difference between descriptive and expository. So if you want me, I can take you to the first slide where we discussed expository, something which is giving you a certain sense of instruction, something which is informing, something which is helping you about knowing something much better, using something much better, is an expository text. So science texts always come under the expository aspect. Okay? Fine. So this is expository text one. Now I want you to read it, obviously. And if you can see a small task given in the italics below the passage, try to give this passage a suitable title. It's a very small 5-line passage, but it's very interesting. So please read it and give it a suitable title. Well, Sumedha, we generally don't try to merge two topics by saying that descriptive is persuasive and persuasive is expository. We generally don't do that. If you rather keep these categories discrete, it becomes for you to understand and bring out something in your own words. So we don't generally agree that descriptives might be persuasive or persuasive might be expositories. Fine? Okay, so I'm giving you a few minutes. Please read this text, which is like hardly 5 lines, and try and tell me what is the summary. Like it's very hard to find out a summary of an already summarized text and give it a suitable title. So I want all of you to answer this right now. Yes, very true. Barbarous is savage. I can take that. Thanks, Shreya. So I think you have a strong vocabulary because you were able to answer all the questions on vocabulary words. So yes, barbarous is savage, of course. Okay. Have you started reading, all of you? And it's quite an interesting thing because it's mythology and myths. You get to know what this is. Generation which passes down from one generation to the other, and we still believe it because it's a myth. It's just there in the life, it's just there in the air, but we don't have any reason to prove it. There is no evidence. So that's a good choice. Amit, simply saying bullfight wouldn't be a suitable title. A title should be very catchy, gripping, and informative, which ensures that the reader is going to read the passage. If you don't have that kind of a title, then if I simply see bullfight, as one of the titles, I don't think so I will read. I will say, okay, it must be about bullfights, let's leave it because I don't have interest in that sport. Okay. Myths about bull seeing red. And told me about what's the passages, then I title. I think I would want you to change. Okay. Myth red charges bull. Vanshita, is it red charges bull? Sorry, red a myth. Again, see, if you simply say red, whether it's about bulls, is it about a color or is it about something else in life which is red? So don't make it so short that I still have to think about what exactly this red signifies. Yes, Pooja, it's about bulls. You already said that. Seeing red charge bull, myth or reality. Okay, Shreya, I mean, that's okay, but I would rather expect something more crisp. Okay, Jasmine, myth about bulls and the color red. Fine. Okay, answers. Amit, you're correct. Okay, attract. What would attract mean, Amit? The fact behind bullfight. Okay, Sankets, that is fine. Yes, Maddie, you have understood that the passage is giving you a lot of information. I'm generating myths. Fine. Mystery about red color charges the bull. First of all, Krishna Jha, please correct the spelling of mystery. That's quite a wrong spelling. Okay. So if I were to give, okay, this could be one of my title. If I were to give another title, this could be another title. If I need to give you more examples, okay, clear? So these are some titles which, if you have a different permutation combination about with these words, I can accept the title. How the title should be short, attractive, and forcing the reader to read the passage. Yes, Soumya, I've seen your answer. I've seen all the answers. I just read out the ones which I thought were correct and which I thought were good. I'm again seeing your answer if you want. You said amidst generation to generation. That's not a very good title though, because a myth is definitely something which passes from generation to generation. Nothing new. Because here the context is the bull and the red color. So unless you have these words in the passage, it's not very advisable. So the first title which I gave you, a myth busted. People will be forced to read because okay, they might say which myth was busted, what was the myth first of all, and which myth was busted. So something which engages the audience is a suitable title. Mistake in the title, Amit. Okay, interesting fact. Okay, this is not a fact. I would rather say let's go by the word myths only. So don't change the style, whether it's a fact or a fiction. It is about myth and it is about something which has been busted, busted as in revealed. Okay. Bulls are blind. People get interested so that the bulls are blind. Okay. The myth of the red color. No, Saundarya. The title saying only myth, like, just the four-letter word MYTH. Yeah, that doesn't sound good. That's very vague. That's more than general. What do I understand by the word myth? So something specific is always expected. Okay. Fine. So I'll take you to more examples. Why I'm doing a lot of examples is because you need to be aware. You need to be able to differentiate between the expository and the narrative and the persuasive. Okay, this is the expository text 2, where it's more scientific. So you'll realize how different it is. You don't have to give it a title. You don't have to tell a text which anybody and everybody can understand. If you are a school student, if you're fast out from school, you will be able to understand. So quickly give it a reading, please. Mallikarjun, why do you have the word rainbow? I mean, I don't think so. We should use the word rainbow because this has nothing to do with rainbow and it's quite misleading. Khushi, again, if you say a red bull, I mean, this is not a red bull. This is about bull seeing colors in different ways. So simply saying Red Bull is not a correct title. Thank you, Shreya. Sandeep, okay, I'll just go back to the last slide which you were asking. I did not miss, maybe I missed what you meant. Pooja, I've already checked your answer. No, Saundarya, myth, I told you, you can't give the title as myth. Okay, clear till here, everybody? Have you been able to understand? Okay, Sudesh. Is it okay now, Neha? Can you hear me? I think there's maybe some connection error at your end. Please have a look. Okay, so now this is a very easy topic. This is something simply about atmospheric pressure and what all the atmosphere contains. This is about the various gases present in the atmosphere. Just to quickly ask you, you all know this because you all must have done science till some level. Now, was this an easy passage to read and understand, or the previous one on myths? Which one was easy? Which one was interesting? So you should be able to differentiate between these two words and the usage. Something can be easy but not interesting. Something can be vice versa. So given an example choice of the first expository text, which was on myths, bulls and the myths, and the second text, which is purely science, atmospheric pressure, and the kinds of gases present in the atmosphere. Which one is more interesting? Which one is more easy? Okay, I'm sorry if I'm missing out names because everybody is asking me how was my title. Fact behind Colors of Bull, Pooja, I'm sorry, that's not a good title. We cannot take that. It's not facts, it's more about myths being busted. Red versus Bull, a myth, Prashant Kothari, that is a good thing. If you're using a colon or a hyphen or you're putting a semicolon, it helps you reduce the number of words in the title, and that's a good idea. Okay. So Pooja, you can maybe work on the title once again, and Prashant Kothari, your title is correct. So in this case, I'm not asking you the title for the atmosphere passage. Don't worry about it. Yes, Mole, that is correct. Myth was interesting, but atmospheric pressure is easy. That's the answer. Actually, even I felt would be unanimous to all of you. Okay, now this is a narrative text. This is a poem. Somebody asked me in the comment section, why does a poem stand in a narrative text? So this is the reason why. This is a poem by Ruskin Bond. You can see the name of the poet, and you can see how it's being narrated because it's narrating like a story. It's telling you about an incident which happened. It's telling you about a storyline. So it's just kind of narration, which is speaking. Okay, that's the reason why poems come into a narrative text. So please give it a reading, guys. I would request all of you to read it once. It's quite rhyming, so you should enjoy the rhymes. The last words are all rhyming. Yes, Shreya, that's a good title. Yes, Drashti, thank you so much. Yes, Jayashri, the first one is interesting. I agree. Whenever you take up a newspaper reading, right, as narrative, expository, persuasive styles of writing, take up a newspaper and try to identify what kind of a text are you reading. Even if it's a book, take up any academic books, take up any reference book. I'm saying newspaper because that's easily available to everybody. Take up a newspaper and just circle all the persuasive styles of writing, circle all the expository styles of writing so that you can make a difference between the two. Okay, can you understand the narration here? So there's just a poet standing somewhere behind the stage and he's narrating a story kind of a thing in the form of a poem, if mice could roar. Okay, this is very easy, it's fun, and so is the narrative style. When it comes to persuasive style, when it comes to discursive style, when it comes to opinion-based writing, it becomes difficult because then your opinions should be like based on a lot of facts. Your opinions should be based on a lot of research you have done, and your opinions should make sense in that context. That's why I find opinion writing persuasive to handle, if I can say. Okay. Okay, now this is an editorial blog by the famous writer for Times of India, Baji Karkaria. She writes wonderful stuff. She writes very good English. She's one of the best editorial writers of this daily newspaper. So this is editorial blog because this is expressing her opinion. That's why I wanted you to see the difference between proper writing, which is just writing, where you are expressing your views and it's being published in a newspaper. So this is a publication from Times of India. I think sometime back. I don't have the date with me, but this is something which is published, and this is just a part of it. Okay. Sudesh, is it okay now? I think maybe there must be a little few seconds lag, but I think it's okay. Sanket, I'll just check your question. Give me a second. Meanwhile, you all can start reading. Difference between myths and epic. That's what you're asking? Is it okay now, Sudesh and Pooja? Is it okay, the voice and the face and the video? Okay. Now somebody just asked me epic and myth. Now if I say Ramayana is an epic, it's like a long book. It's like a story made with so many different active meaning. Epic is typically a long poem. That's the actual meaning of the word. A very long poem which is narrated in the style of a story. An ancient narrative style is called an epic. It has legendary figures. It has very important people. It has a lot of references to history. That's called an epic. Okay. Sometimes we use epic for as an adjective where we say his performance was epic. What you said was epic. A quote you said was epic, which means like just perfect, just takes us back to the times where in olden times, in ancient times, everything was perfect. That's what you can mean by epic as an adjective. But otherwise, something which has, some relations with adventure, something about the old deeds, poem style which is narrated is called an epic. Myth is something which we just believe on. It's just been there in the society. It's confused. There's a myth. There's a myth that on a full moon night, a witch comes, or a Dracula comes, or some bad spirit comes. These are some myths which certain community of people believe. So myths are very region specific. Myths are very community specific. Okay, got it? I hope I've answered your question correctly and in detail. Okay, I'll just check it from my end. Maybe there's some technical error. See, if it's for a couple of seconds, please bear. So if it's just for 3-4 seconds, I think we can always get back to normal. The voice and the video will soon be back, don't worry. But if you can see the screen, you can at least continue reading. Is it the same now also? Give it a few seconds. I'm requesting, give it a few seconds. I'm sure the video and the voice will be fine. In the meantime, you can simply read the text. And if you have read the text, I can take you to the next example, which is very easy. It is an advertisement. So you see, this is an advertisement, this is a flyer. An advertisement, these are like bread clubs, which are edible bread clubs. So they tell you about what all they contain, what is the size. They also tell us about the color. Okay, Sonak, can you hear me? Is my voice clear now? Maybe there was a few seconds lag. I'm not refusing, but it happens. So I request you guys, please wait for some time. Don't just panic. It will definitely be fine, the audio and the video. Okay, scenes. Triumvirate is called a triarchy. Like monarchy, we have a triarchy where three people, three powerful individuals rule a particular place, rule a region, rule a country. That's called a triumvirate. Okay, they are very much equal in power aspects, but three people are ruling together. That's called a triumvirate. Okay, this is very typically used in the Roman times, when there was Julius Caesar, etc., etc. That's when triumvirates were there. This is an advertisement. Let's move on. If you can hear me and listen to me now. Thanks, Shreya. A triumvirate is fine. Where did you get this word ashtanga? Is it an English word? Because I don't see the context. Where are you getting these words from? Okay, Sudhish, maybe I apologize if there is an error. I'm still here. You can ask me your doubts. You can put them in the chat box in case I haven't been able to explain your doubt to you, clarify your doubt to you. I can do it right now. Thank you. Okay, Sudhish, the voice is clear. So I'm sure it's going to take a few seconds. I'm quite surprised why the internet is not doing a good job today, because morning you said the link is not live, now you say the video is not clear. At my end, honestly, I can see everything, I can relate to you, I can read your questions, I can answer. So I don't think so there's any issue at my end. So please check at your end. A myth about red and bull burst up, not burst up, busted. It's busted. Okay, not burst up, bursted. Okay, so you get the difference between an advertisement and a flyer. Now, this is a flyer. This is a camp flyer because this is something temporary. So flyers are usually used for something which is going to happen at some point of time at some location. You don't have flyers every day. Then you have advertisements. So when you want to spread news about a new product your company has come up with, there's a new shop, then you use an advertisement, which is repeatedly going to be aired or printed, depends on what is your mode of advertising. But a flyer is about like a camp. Can you see this flyer where it's talking about a camp which was going to last only for 4 days, a hockey camp? And after 23rd, I cannot see this flyer. This flyer is a waste because the days have gone by. So a flyer gives you all the very important and basic information about the event. It's a camp, it's a workshop, it's a seminar, or some kind of a training exercise happening. So the day, the time, the number of coaches, the number of students, if there is a fee involved, all that comes under a flyer, whereas an advertisement is about a product which is there to stay, which is there to remain in the market. Travelogues. Okay, Pooja, I'll explain travelogues again. That was in the passage preceding Namaskaram. I did not get that. Sona, can you please explain what are you saying? And of course, I'll explain the word, what did Pooja say? Travelogues. I'll explain that once again. Okay, I think Sonak, if you're talking about Ashtanga, then that's kind of yoga exercises. So I wouldn't need you to relate it with anything in English or vocabulary. That's typically yoga exercises. Okay? Advertisement. You all have to think. It's very important. If you simply take the words given to you are reducing your thinking ability. So please think and tell me what exactly makes a flyer and what exactly makes an advertisement an advertisement. In fact, it would be great if you make one. Okay, that's very important if you make one. So I have a list of let's practice questions. You can make one of these and share it with me in the comment box, in the chat box. You have to make an advertisement to sell a new brand of juice your company has launched. Assuming that you are already an established company in the market and there's a new a juice brand coming up, how would you make an advertisement? So always remember your target audience is going to be children mostly who want to drink the juice. So make it more colorful and make a theme, select some cartoon characters which are relatable to children. That's how you do. A general sense of understanding is required in making an advertisement. Secondly, okay, Sudhish, I agree. I agree. You are quite close to the router and the Wi-Fi signal, so maybe there is some issue, but please bear with me. I'm sorry for that. Flyers and pamphlets are more or less the same. Okay, there's not much of a difference. So this, I think, if you take up at least two of them and do them in your rough notebook, you would get a good hands-on experience on the different styles of writing. So I'm giving you, some people were asking me in the beginning of the class, what should we start to write? So you can write a report, which is question number 4. You can write an opinion, which is like a discursive writing, giving your opinion. You can write about 7, which is descriptive writing. You can write about the second one, which is like a small shortened version of a book review. You can write about the first one, which is typically a pictorial image with all the basic information about the product, the price, where is it available, some characters related to the product, maybe some contents about the product. That is all, which is advertisement. So please remember, there are various kinds of writings. Every writing requires a different style. Every writing requires a different tone and a different word length. So all that in mind, these are the quick tips which I want you to read. Whenever you are writing, don't be rigid. Don't write for the sake of I'm just going to write this because I like it and I think I'm right. No, be open to ideas. Look here and there, listen to people, discuss with people, then form an opinion and then start writing. Okay. Secondly, many of you have this habit of writing very, very long sentences. The sentence starts from the first line and goes up to the fourth line without even a punctuation. Don't expect that to be correct. That is grammatically, technically incorrect. You should be using a break in sentences, and the sentences should be short so that they get registered into the minds of the reader. Okay? Paragraph breaking is very important because our eyes get a break, our mind also gets a break, technically. So when I see a lot of content, why are research theories and why are research theses very monotonous? Because there is so much of content of 100, 150, 200 pages that I feel kind of discouraged to read it. So please divide your content into paragraphs, like small paragraphs, but not like 10, 12, 14 paragraphs. It can be only 3 paragraphs, it can be only 5 paragraphs, that's enough, depending on what are you writing. Fine. Then grammatically correct language, of course, that is very important because you cannot afford to make errors in grammar. A flow. Now, what does a consistency or a flow mean? This means you should start from the introduction, move on to the body, and then move on to the conclusion. Or if it's an instruction manual, you cannot start from the opposite that, okay, the washing machine is running, Now switch it off, remove the clothes, dry them, and then you come back to how did you start the washing machine. You can't do that. So there should be a certain flow of language. There should be a certain flow of thoughts. Everything should be in a certain order, especially when you are using paragraphs. Okay, so that if there are 5 paragraphs you have used, the first is more important. It is kind of introducing us, and the last is of least important, or maybe the last is a conclusion. Do not copy while Control C, Control V, not allowed in CA. Do not copy at all. Make sure your ideas are novel. Make sure you're being honest. That's the first rule of writing. Fine? Okay. And these are some very nice famous quotes which help me express what I feel writing is. So if you also can relate to this, I'm literally very glad. Scenic place, Shreya, is a place which is like a scene, you know, a good scene in a theater or a good scene in a movie is worth seeing again and again. So a scenic place is a place which is very beautiful in terms of its natural beauty, or whatever you can see is so very picture perfect. Hence we call it a scenic place. Yeah, okay, Sonak, that's a good attempt. Okay, so if you see, we have done a lot about different styles of writing. We have done a lot about the different aspects which have to be considered before writing. We have also done a difference when we read narrative texts, flyers, and advertisement. Keeping all that in mind, I request all of you, please try to write something. Only reading and saying, okay, wow, I have become a master of writing, that doesn't happen. If you want to learn to drive, it should either be ride a bicycle or drive a car or fly a plane. You cannot drive a car on the road and say, okay, now I can drive all vehicles, including a plane. The technology is different, the style is different, the expectation is different, and last of all, the learning is different. So to ensure that you are learning in that particular way, you are learning in the right style, try all styles of writing. Don't have favorites this time. This is not the time to have favorites that okay, I enjoy writing diaries and I enjoy writing essays. It's okay. That's okay when you're doing it for your own sake. That's okay when you're doing it as something which you want to express. But when you're doing it from the examination point of view, when you're doing it from the CA point of view, I would rather request you do everything practically. Use a pen and paper, practice few styles of writing, or if you're reading a newspaper or a magazine, try to identify which style it is. There are many more styles. I have given you the basic, but if you are able to identify even these 4 to 5 styles, I think I have done my job. I have been successful in explaining things to you. Okay, so if there's any doubt, please tell me. We're soon going to have the next session of Prezi writings, which is a very important aspect. Again, a 5-mark question. And Prezi is something which I think you wouldn't have ever done. And also, it's part of the question paper always. So don't miss your session on Prezi. And let me just see if there are any comments. Or else we stop the session right here and we join back. Okay.